Welcome to this episode of Clout is Not Currency podcast, where we have conversations about worth, value, and influence. I am your host, Blessing Mukosha, aka Big Money B, because I'm focused on cheddar, I'm focused on cheese, and I don't let a bum chick get a touch up on me. Today, it is our 6th episode and it is our first episode of the new year. So happy new year to all of you. I wish you consistency and abundance this year. And I hope that as we spend, at least 50 weeks together, we're going to have an episode every week. We have lots of conversations about how we value ourselves, what makes influence and why should people be influential and what kind of challenges the influential people face and how can we learn from those to develop stronger sense of self and stronger grasp of our own value, our own self-worth and our own capacity for influence. So I hope that you enjoy spending the rest of the year with me and we enjoy all the different types of conversations we have. So today's episode, we're starting off the year with just 2 topics. And we're going to be talking about the conversation that trended. Both of these conversations trended on Twitter. So the first one was if Nicki Minaj's career has fallen off. Of course, you have to be delusional to think that, but nonetheless, we're going to get into it. So that was a trending topic. Some jobless people created a Twitter space that unfortunately the queen of rap, Nicki Minaj, did actually end up seeing. And these people were discussing whether or not she's fallen off. So that's one thing we're going to talk about in this episode. And we're also going to talk about Molly-Mae. So if you're not familiar with Molly-Mae, she was one of the winners of Love Island a few years ago. That is a romance reality show in England, which has now got worldwide franchises. And Molly-Mae appeared on Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO podcast, which I really hope that I make it on one day. So manifesting. So yes, she did an interview with Stephen Bartlett on his podcast. And it to say it received a mixed reception, I would say is an understatement. It definitely, a small snippet of it trended on Twitter. And that snippet essentially took a part of the conversation where Molly-Mae was talking about how she has gotten to the place that she's gotten in. She's one of the biggest influencers in the UK. She's definitely the highest paid, if not one of the highest paid Love Island former contestants, and she was recently appointed creative director of Pretty Little Thing, and she has a very successful self-tanning brand called Filter by Molly-Mae, which she launched after Love Island. And I can attest to the fact that the girls be buying her product because I saw boxes being delivered into my apartment building after Love Island. So she's 22 years old and she's achieved all of this. There was a lot of backlash towards Molly-Mae and this idea that she wasn't recognizing her own privilege when telling people how they should. Well, actually, let me get into it because it's not that she was necessarily saying to people do this. I think she was just saying the reality is you won't get to hear unless you do this. So that's the conversation. That's what we're going to get into. I hope you guys enjoy and make sure that you do the following things. First of all, make sure that you like, subscribe, leave a comment onto this channel. This is my personal YouTube channel. Make sure that you follow me on Instagram as well. It's Blessing Mukosha. I'll be posting snippets from the podcast and keeping you entertained with my fly fashions and my thoughts throughout the week. And also make sure that you like and subscribe this podcast on whatever streaming services you're using and leave us a review. Okay, so let's get into the rest of the podcast. So let's start off with this conversation about, has Nicki Minaj fallen off? Now, I was minding my business. So with running No Ghostwriter, our audiences are split across the USA, UK, and South Africa. And I tend to get up at 7 a.m. So when I get up, it tends to be the end of the day for all of my US subscribers and everyone that's sort of in the US on that side of the world. So I opened up my Twitter, I believe, in the morning, one of the days this week. And I was just thinking, has Nicki Minaj fallen off? And I'm thinking like, Queen? How could Queen have fallen off? What is the context of this conversation? And I'm not even going to lie to you and say that I haven't had these conversations with people. And I'm going to try my best not to just be a super barb. I'm going to try and give you Blessing the Barrister right now and weigh this up. But I just want to say off rip, I stand for this woman. She is a powerful black woman in hip hop. She is the highest selling female rapper for the record. She is a trendsetter. She is an icon. She is a mogul. She's a lyrical assassin. She's a legend. Her face is a 12 out of 10. Her body is a 12 out of 10. I stand, okay? I want to make it clear. I stand, and if you're a bad bee, you also stand Nicki Minaj. But let's get into it. So I just want to caveat that I believe that you can have a conversation about an artist and, like, you know, what is the current cultural impact and longevity of their music. I think you are very welcome to do that. I think especially with an artist like Nicki Minaj, she's over 10 years into the game. I think it's cool for us to say, oh, she's still got that impact, is she still there? The thing I don't like, and I don't know why I'm starting with the thing I don't like before I explain to you what happened. But the thing I don't like is that sometimes I feel like people aren't having this sort of like commercially aware or culturally aware conversation about the impact of art. I feel like people are more trying to throw shade at a lady they don't like. But that's just, hey, these are my opinions, and I've got my own podcast. So if you want to share your opinions, then you start yours. But let's get into this conversation. So I think what's really prompted this, it's been an ongoing conversation since about 2017. And if you would like to see a full breakdown of what is known colloquially as the Nicki Minaj hate train, which is essentially systematic in this industry, you know, slander, you know, a tough time in the press, tough time in public perception for Nicki Minaj that went on from 2017, from when Remy Ma dropped her diss to Nicki Sheetha, and sort of continued throughout 2019. It was the era that we got the Queen album. It was the era that Nicki Minaj rebranded as the bad guy. And it was the era that we saw Cardi B build her rap career on beefing with Nicki Minaj and shading Nicki Minaj and basically being a poor man's Nicki Minaj. That's not to say that she hasn't got the capacity to do her own thing. I'm just speaking facts. The reality of the situation is the hate train against Nicki Minaj was engineered in order to allow a new girl to come up, and not just come up organically, inorganically ascend to, you know, the upper echelons, even though she didn't earn that spot. And that's fine, but that's the reality. They wanted Nicki out and they tried to shove a new girl in. Now, the reality of this is that that period of time, it wasn't the strongest time for Nicki Minaj's career. I think that it's fair to say that, and that's not necessarily shade. The Queen album rollout was pushed. You know, Queen was pushed by at least 1 year. You know, a lot of the material that she'd originally planned to put out in the Queen album was released in 2017, or like created around 2017. So that's why, you know, tracks like Barbie Dreams, we're actually getting a archive track at the end of Barbie Dreams when she starts with that crazy Roman flow. That's an old cut. So the fact that that was a tough time for her in her career is essentially the fodder that people use to argue that her career's fallen off. So, for example, they use the fact that there are currently, I don't even want to say more female rappers, because if you've read this book by Clover Hope, The Mother Lode, and we actually did an event with Clover Hope, and she spoke live with us in No Go Strikes. We talked about the future of women in hip hop. But if you read this book, you will see that there have been plenty of women that have been active, that have been putting out music, that have been changing the culture, shaking the game. And they've been there since the start of hip hop. So I think the idea isn't that, oh, there's new girls now, there's never been new girls. I think that the difference is people actually want to pay attention to the new girls. You know, there have been plenty of female rappers, but you were only ever interested in Nicki Minaj. And that's on you. That's not on her. You know, you have had lots of female rappers putting out material for a very, very, very long time. Lady Leisha is a UK artist, just giving you an example. She's been active for the same amount of time as Nicki Minaj has. You know, and that it's not just Nicki. You know, it's not just Lady Leisha. I mean, there are so many girls that have been active and rapping. But the main girl that you check for is Nicki Minaj. And I think what happened is that the combination of the hate train, like I talked about in that video on No Ghost Ride, you can check it out. You know, people seeing Nicki Minaj, quote unquote, vulnerable, that's what made them want to listen to more female rappers. You saw Nicki Minaj vulnerable and you thought, oh, she must be over. And the reason why I think people took that, they correlated, we see female rappers and we see Nicki Minaj vulnerable. They put those two things together. But in reality, do they actually have anything to do with each other? Or is this more to do with the industry and how the industry wanted to have part of Nicki's pie? And if you're happily consuming, let's say, you know, Nicki used the example of burger shops or a chicken shop, right? So every day you're going to this excellent chicken shop. It's been serving you well for 10 years. You know, you've never had any problems. You've been really enjoying it. The chicken's really good quality. Another company wants to capitalize on you. They know you're already eating chicken. So what's the best way that they can get you to eat their chicken? Well, they're gonna make you think that the chicken you've been eating is, you know, it's old, it's not lit. They're gonna keep feeding you things to try and change your perception and what you value so that you invest in their new thing. And I think that's when people are having this conversation of, oh, has Nicki fallen off? They'll bring up things like saying, oh, her tour didn't sell. Oh, she hasn't charted the same. Oh, I think you need to not ask the question of, has Nicki Minaj fallen off? You need to ask, why have we been so inconsistent towards Nicki Minaj? Why is it that the originator who served you well for over 10 years, why did you allow yourself to believe that there can only be one? Why did you allow yourself to believe that you can't still listen to Nicki Minaj and listen to New Girls? Why did you allow yourself to believe that the only way to appreciate women in hip hop is by pitting them against each other? Because you did this for a long time. For a long time, it's been Nicki and it's like you can't even see. Like, go search hip hop articles, texts, books. They can't say Nicki Minaj's name without putting Cardi B in the same sentence. That was intentional. Because now people associate Cardi B with Nicki Minaj. They absolutely should not. They are not bedfellows. They are not roommates. They are not in the same class. They're not in the same graduating year. They are not even at the same university, child. They aren't relevant to each other except for the fact that Cardi was engineered to be a competitor for Nicki Minaj. Not because she's got the skill, but the goal was you, the consumer. They depend on the fact that you are going to be lazy listeners. They do. They depend on the fact that you're not really that invested in women in hip hop, really. So you don't care whose song it is, as long as you can shake some ass, right? You don't really care about the fact that Nicki Minaj wrote every single rap. You don't care about the fact that Nicki Minaj has owned her brand because you're not invested. And they don't want you to be invested. They just want you to hear what comes on the radio and believe them. When they say this girl's the queen of hip hop, they want you to be like, okay. Because they don't want you to know. They don't want you to think. They don't want you to think, hold on, why is someone completely sponsored by the industry being used to knock out an independent black woman who has held down this industry? You know, this is what I'm saying. Like, these conversations about has Nicki Minaj's career fallen off are completely facetious. Completely facetious. How can a woman whose 12-year-old mixtape recharted and outsold new female rap projects and only just undersold from Doja Cat's Planet Her. How is that possible? How is this woman who's allegedly fallen off still pushing over 70,000 units, album units, on an old mixtape? How is this going on, you guys? This is what I'm saying. These conversations are completely facetious. Because if you look at Nicki's power and influence, it hasn't gone anywhere. The girls still want to be Nicki Minaj. They know that they want to be Nicki Minaj. They know that Nicki is the pink print. So there is a divorce between what is known within the industry, which is that without Nicki, there is no way. And then outside of the industry, amongst the general public, they're trying to convince you that Nicki is no longer the wave. But your eyes and your ears shouldn't deceive you. Look at what all the girls look like aesthetically. Listen to what they sound like. You know that they are inspired by the one, by the only Nicki Minaj. And influence, career relevance. How are you measuring that? Because if you're measuring it in sales, Nicki's still out selling. If you're measuring it in streams, Nicki's still out streaming. If you're measuring it in cultural impact, Nicki is still the cultural blueprint. So if you don't like Nicki Minaj, that's fine. If you don't want to see her win, that's fine. But what you can't do is lie. Lying isn't good. And also, the last thing I'll say on this is, how can a lady fall off and then she's still a trending topic? Don't you think it's ironic that y'all don't trend unless you talk about Nicki Minaj? I'm just saying, your engagement ain't the same unless you put in Nicki. That's why you're out there. You're out there saying this stuff because you know you want to get a provocative reaction from her fans. Guess what? There's millions of us. We're not going anywhere. And in the words of Bianca Del Rio, what do you do successfully? Quickly. I want to thank our sponsor, Surfshark VPN. So Surfshark VPN ensures that you are protected as you navigate the internet. And the good thing about it is that it protects all of your information. So that's down to your sensitive banking information, things like your passwords, your browsing history, and so on. But another benefit is that it has a location switcher. So if you need to, you can switch your location in order to be able to access content or other things that you need to access from a different geographical location. And if you travel a lot, which I know is currently quite hard with the pandemic, but if you travel a lot or you're not at home, you can still get all your creature comforts from home if you use Surfshark VPN. So they have an offer right now for 83% off your first 3 months. And also you get a 30-day money-back guarantee. Check that out. To use it, use the link in the description of this episode or use my code Blessing Mukosha. That's BLESSING MUKOSHA for your access to the 83% off discount. So I hope you enjoy that. It's got the 30-day money back guarantee. So thank you again to Surfshark for sponsoring this episode, and now we'll get into the content. Okay, let's get into our second topic, Molly-Mae. So Molly-Mae is a former Love Island contestant and winner. And she recently went on to a podcast called Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. Shout out to him. And Steve, if you're watching this, make sure you know that I'm going to be on that podcast soon enough because I'm a mogul in the making. Just watch me, okay? So Molly-Mae went on and she talked about a lot of different things. And I made notes. I actually listened to the entire 2-hour podcast. So all of you guys on Twitter that were leaving your opinions and thoughts and you didn't listen to the whole thing, this girl listened to the whole thing. I listened to it over the weekend. So I took a few things down and these are some of the headline notes I took. So Molly-Mae, it seems from what was discussed, she's had the audacity to take risk and raise her status. So I call it audacious because if you listen to her story, she really took a lot of very expensive risks. She moved to Manchester by herself to pursue being an influencer and a creator full time. And she also talked about having the trust of your audience. So what is a good influencer? Why is Molly-Mae a good influencer? And she just talked about developing that trust with your audience. You know, they know that she's an authority on what she talks about, and she's got that discernment to know that's not for my brand, that's not for me. And I'll say, since I've been watching influencers, I've been watching their YouTube and everything, learning from the girls for years now, and they all say the same thing. Jackie Aina, I remember, used to always say over and over again, I don't take on brand collabs that don't meet my brand. And it makes sense because now, and she's got Forever Mood and all of that stuff, everything just makes sense with who she is. Now the brands that she works with, they reflect her, and it's just a great organic process. So yeah, that was a great thing that Molly-Mae pointed out. She also talked about goal setting and reviewing her goals. So her and her manager, which was another point that she made, that you do need a team and management that understands your direction and goals. They get together, they have goal setting and strategizing sessions. And she basically isn't going into this thing like an accident. She knows what she wants. She goes and pursues what she wants, and she puts the necessary plan and momentum behind it. She talked about turning down multi-million-pound deals if she doesn't believe in them. So we talked about that. And she's just basically says, you know, she's never going to risk her audience for the sake of engagement. And I thought this was really interesting because obviously, as you guys may know, and if you watch some of my other vlogs on the channel, you'll see it. I am a future barrister, and I have passed the bar. I've been called to the bar. I've done all of that stuff, and it's drilled into us: honesty and integrity. Honesty and integrity. It's one of the fundamental responsibilities we have as barristers, as professionally regulated people. And I thought this was really great that Molly-Mae was addressing the fact of honesty and integrity, because it's my opinion that in the future, barristers and influencers are going to be similar in the sense that we'll both be regulated, self-employed people. And that's because the Advertising Standards Authority is looking more and more into implementing a code of professional conduct for influencers, because they are advertisers. And in the same way that supermarkets can't just lie and sell us whatever they want to sell us, the ASA also doesn't want influencers to do that. So I think the fact that Molly caveats everything with the fact, with, you know, with integrity, honesty, I think that's smart. And I think this shows you the way you need to think if you're going to be any kind of person with influence and responsibility, whether you're going to be a barrister or whether you're going to be an influencer. She talked about this insatiable hunger that she has for the next thing. You know, currently nothing's quite big enough. She always wants more. You know, she looks at life, she looks at what she's got. She's happy, but she's not content. She wants more. And she also talked about the fact that she didn't have a lot of friends. So she considered that friendship is a bit of a waste of time. She's not got the time to make other people happy and to, you know, engage in people and things that don't add value to her. And she basically talked about how she's not the same girl from Hitchin. So Hitchin, I do believe it's near Essex or in Essex. But she basically said, you know, I'm not the same girl. I don't relate to the same things and the same people anymore. And she generally talked about being a loner, but she likes that. And it was an interesting observation that both Stephen and Molly-Mae made, that a lot of successful people don't tend to have a lot of friends. And Molly basically broke down that her support system is her boyfriend and her manager. And that might seem very extreme to some people, but I think that was the part that really got it for me. Like, I'm a boss bitch, I'm a busy bitch, like I'm always working, but I know that I just need those few people who get me. And I don't have to try. I don't have to be anything. They don't look at me and want a particular version of me. They're just there, whether I want to take a nap, whether I don't want to say anything, whether I want to run around the room rapping Nicki Minaj, I'm free. Whereas to the rest of the world, especially because I'm building this platform, I'm building this influence, and I've got this public professional career, I constantly feel like I can't 100% be myself. But when I'm with my people and when I'm with my man, my fictional man that I don't currently have, I feel that calm. So I really related to that. She talked about YouTube and the fact that YouTube provides a great avenue for realism. So that's where people get to know you and show an in-depth insight into her. I saw a lot of the Twitter conversation around Molly-Mae was saying, you know, she doesn't even work that much. She doesn't even vlog a lot. But she talks about the fact that she actually edits all of her own content. And she finds that very therapeutic. She enjoys the time that she creates and spends, and she finds that it's a very special feeling that other people, when they watch her vlogs, have chosen to spend 20 minutes of their day with her. I'm not even gonna lie, that alone reinvigorated my passion for vlogging. I kind of forgot why I vlogged, because we live in this very highly aestheticized world and everyone wants to see everything look perfect. And I like the fact that Molly-Mae said, you know, Instagram, if you're building influence, Instagram isn't going to be the place that they get to know you. It's going to be on YouTube where they're going to see the truth. So I hope you guys enjoy looking at the vlogs on my channel, as well as this weekly podcast. I'm trying to run a weekly vlog. So yeah, you guys literally can get to know me. And so yeah, shout out to Molly-Mae for that. She talked about the fact that she knows her audience is very varied. So she knows that she has to be aware of everyone from very, very, very young and impressionable girls that follow her all the way to older women. She tries to keep balance and show her reality. So things like removing her filler, getting that dissolved. She talked about how much positive feedback she received from mothers of young girls just saying thank you, you know, because you've done this, my child feels more confident with her natural face. So she does try and take care to be a blend of aspirational, like, you know, I am that girl that you want to be, and also relatable, like, here are the things we go through, this is the reality of being us. I really loved, above all, you know, in this conversation about her hunger and what she wants, she referenced Patricia Bright as being her inspiration, and I agree. Patricia Bright is also my inspiration. Just shout out to Queen and legend Patricia Bright, a UK YouTube fashion, beauty, lifestyle, finance icon. And I love that Molly-Mae said that she was inspired by Patricia Bright, because it shows, and they've collaborated well. So in summary of what Molly-Mae, you know, the summary of the conversation, she said, you know, she's still got a lot to learn about being a CEO, about being a mogul, about being a boss, about being present and content with what she's got. But the key thing that makes her different from everyone else is her hunger. She wants it the most. And it reminded me of this clip of Nicki Minaj from Beam Me Up Scotty that I'll play in here, where she talks about, I want it the most. And yeah, so shout out to Molly-Mae. That's a summary of everything that was discussed in this 2-hour-long podcast, so you're welcome. But I do recommend that you check out Diary of CEO, that episode, and all the other ones. Patricia Bright actually has an episode on there too. So where do we go from here with Molly-Mae? You know, she did say in the podcast, you know, about having the same 24 hours as Beyonce, and how all of us who want it, if you want it, if you want to go get it, then you just need to get up and go get it. Now, I'm going to say, I think that this boils down to two main things in terms of the Twitter backlash, why people took what she said so negatively. First of all, people don't want to work hard. And I'm not saying that people don't want to work hard, like, oh, like people don't want to work. No. I mean, like, people don't want to work hard. I even don't want to work hard sometimes. Today alone, as well as this podcast, I'm going to record another tutorial. I'm going to shoot 4 fashion outfits. And for each outfit, I'm going to shoot 3 pictures. I'm going to shoot some fashion reels, like some long form video. And then for this podcast, like you see, I'm recording this. And then I'm also, during the week, I'm going to edit all of this stuff. I'm going to pre-schedule it and I'm going to put it out there. Why am I doing that? I'm doing that so I can start to build my influence. I'm doing that so I can continue to grow. I'm doing that because I want random strangers on the internet to follow me, know me, and be influenced by me. Not everyone wants that. That is hard work. That is more work than you need to do. I could have spent my weekend like literally everyone else chilling. I feel very tense right now. I'm very on edge. I'm very, wound up because I'm working constantly. But I want it, you guys. I want it all. I want everything. So that's why I get up at 7 a.m., I bang my day job, and then I work for another 6 hours every night on No Ghostwriter, on my own stuff. I want it. I just do. So there is no correlation, there is no worry, there is no hesitation. I see the work that needs doing and I just do it. It's just, that's that. And I think with Molly-Mae, this is what she was trying to say. But the problem is when you are speaking as a very privileged person, I myself am also privileged. I probably may even have, I'm not white obviously, but I think I may have, equal or more privilege than Molly-Mae in some ways. And when you speak without acknowledging the fact that 24 hours in the day means something different to someone who has enough financial security to know that taking those risks to be an influencer, to be a creative, you can fall back on something. For me, I have my day job and I'm not going to drop my day job and all of my other work. I never will actually, because I'm always going to be a barrister and a creative. But I'm just saying, if you had a day job, you work your day job until you can drop it and go. The access to a day job, the access to a second stream of income, a solid stream of income is a privilege. And whilst, yes, I do think that there is hateration and there is jealousy that does go into play. People don't want to see a 22-year-old out earning them doing what they don't perceive to be proper work, which is another thing I'll talk about. But I do think, when people said, whoa, Molly-Mae, chill. We don't all have the same 24 hours. I think that we have to acknowledge the fact that 24 hours with privilege is not the same as 24 hours without privilege. However, that doesn't mean that both of those people, the privileged person and the unprivileged person, can't get it. It doesn't mean that they can't. One of the reasons I love hip hop, I love rap and hip hop culture, a lot of these people, like Nicki Minaj, like some of the biggest rappers in the world, didn't have a pot to piss in. And they flipped that. They made things happen. So I think Molly-Mae saying you can make it happen kind of just doesn't hit the same because she did have a pot. I think when you hear the grind from the bottom story from someone like Nicki Minaj, from someone like Nipsey Hussle, from someone like Jay-Z, it comes across differently. But in defense of Molly-Mae, and I will say this in defense of Molly-Mae, there is nothing that she said on Stephen Bartlett's podcast that hasn't been said by every other guest that's been on that podcast, by every other successful entrepreneur, and literally every billionaire. Every millionaire, every billionaire are going to tell you the same thing. You got the same time, but it's how you use your time. Now, they are all speaking, like we talk about, that privilege thing feeds in, but I'm just saying that what Molly's saying isn't unique to Molly-Mae. So I think that if you've got a problem with hustle culture, you've got a problem with hustle culture. I don't think that you specifically have a problem with Molly-Mae. And I want to riff off a classic Nicki Minaj thing here. You can knock me, but why knock my hustle? We don't have to do what Molly-Mae does. We can also acknowledge the privileged bit that we talked about. But above all, the girl's working. And that's the second thing I want to talk about. I think that a real issue here is that people don't think influencing is work. They don't. They don't think influencers do real work. I disagree. I really disagree. there are some influencers who, look, let's not get it wrong. They don't do anything. They just, take a few pictures here. But guys, do you know how much work it takes to consistently engage an audience of any kind? It's hard. And in the world of influence, everything is based on your personal brand, your relatability. I record, like I told you, I record this podcast every week. I shoot fashion content every week. I edit every week, and I do that on top of my main job. You may go on my Instagram and think, oh, Blessing's life is so easy. Look, she just stands around in Shoreditch and takes nice pictures and goes out. But do you know how long it takes to create that nice picture? I'm not saying Molly-Mae is the same. I don't think Molly-Mae needs to work the way she used to work. Like, don't get me wrong. My good sis is breaded up. So I don't think she needs to work the same way. But guys, please don't put down influencers. They are actually working. It's not easy. And a lot of people go, oh, it's so easy to be an influencer. You just need a camera. Okay, cool. If you just need a camera, I give you this challenge. Look at any influencer that you follow or you were aware of. Note down, follow them for a week or two, and note down how many pictures they post, how many videos they post. If they post any vlogs or anything on YouTube, if they do any collabs, note that all down. And then I challenge you for a week, for the same period, whether it's a week or 2 weeks, put out the same amount of content. And not just that, make sure that however many people follow you, let's say you've got 100 followers, at least 10 people need to engage with that content every time you post it. Do that. But it's not as easy as you think it is. It's not easy. It's a consistent mindset you have to stay in. It's a choice. Not everyone has to do it. But to say that influencers aren't working, I think is disingenuous. The influencer industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry for a reason. Companies have more marketing budget for influencers than they do for any other media and ads. That's not an accident. You yourself watching this or listening to this podcast are probably wearing the clothes you're wearing because you either were influenced by, a magazine, something like, maybe you got a copy of Vogue that inspired you, or maybe you went on Instagram and you saw someone that inspired you. That act of styling something, making it realistic, making you want it, is work. And so I think that we need to start appreciating that creatives do work, influencers do work, and the fact that you have probably purchased something within the last week or so, I wager at least within the last month, you bought something purely because you saw someone else wearing it. So let's not poo-poo all over the influencer industry. Let's acknowledge, though, that it does take a lot of privilege, whether it's financial privilege, pretty privilege, white privilege, whatever the privilege is, to sustain or start a career as an influencer. Because those 24 hours that you need to spend 12 of them, editing, you can only do that if you don't need to spend those 12 editing hours working. So yeah, that's my final thoughts. I also wanted to share a few rebuttal or contrasting points on Molly-Mae, because I want to show balance. So I want to thank my friend Andre, who shared some of his thoughts with me before this podcast. Some things that he pointed out is, for example, Molly-Mae sought to grow by being relatable to a particular kind of audience. So for her to reach the stage that she's at now and be like, I'm no longer that girl from Hitchin, I don't relate to that anymore, I don't want friends because no one's really on the level I'm on. There is a compassion, a kindness, a generosity that came from those people who related to you to elevate you to this place that you're in. So you're now attaining what was previously unattainable to not only you, but also your audience. So that same humility, that humility needs to stay, because that same compassion, kindness, generosity that they gave you to elevate your platform, you can't just rubbish all of that now and say, oh, you guys aren't on my level, so I don't relate. I will say, to caveat and defend Molly-Mae on that, she has also said she never says no to a picture, and she always feels very special and privileged that people want to take pictures of her. So the last thing to talk about with this Molly-Mae conversation is about, yes, when she talks about we all have the same 24 hours, I think it's one of the points that my friend made here is that everyone would benefit from the massive support that she has, that privilege that she's got. Imagine 24 hours when the entire world is looking at you anyway. So as well as like what we talked about before, I do think that counterpoint towards Molly-Mae, that like, yes, we got the same 24 hours, but 24 hours as Molly-Mae may not be 24 hours as someone unknown who doesn't have access to the same things that she does. And I thought that was a fair point to make, which is why I wanted to make it again. So that summarizes and wraps up our conversation on Molly-Mae. And that also wraps up this episode of Clout is Not Currency podcast. I hope that this episode inspires you to think differently about worth, value, and influence. Make sure that you use hashtag Clout is Not Currency when you discuss us online. And follow me, Blessing Mukosha. It's at Blessing Mukosha on everything. And make sure you like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment. And also, if you haven't already checked out the Patreon where you can get full ad-free access to these episodes, check it out. It's patreon.com/Blessing Mukosha, and you can get all these episodes but with no ads. So if you don't want ads, if you want ad-free audio, you want ad-free video, you want to look at my face without having an ad pop up, then you know what to do. Check out the Patreon, and make sure that you also check out our sponsor Surfshark, who we talked about at the start of this video. But yes, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.